Welcome to my channel. I hope today's story captures your interest and leaves you wanting more. Your continued support truly means a lot to me. Now, let's get started with the story.
I pulled into the long-term parking lot at Toronto Pearson International Airport, excited to surprise my son for his birthday. It was supposed to be a good day. I had flown in from Vancouver specifically for this. But as I walked through the rows of parked vehicles, something caught my eye. A silver Honda Civic with condensation on the windows. And inside, I saw movement. I walked closer. My heart stopped. It was my son. My son, Michael, was sleeping in the back seat with his twin boys, Nathan and Oliver, curled up beside him under a single blanket. In an airport parking lot. In March, I knocked on the window. Michael's eyes shot open. For a moment, he just stared at me through the glass, and I saw something I'd never seen in my son's face before. Shame. He opened the door slowly. The boys were still asleep. "Dad," he said. His voice was hoarse. "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" I couldn't keep my voice steady. "Michael, what the hell is going on? Where's the house? Where's Jennifer? Why are you living in your car with my grandsons?" He looked away. "It's complicated." "Complicated? You're sleeping in a parking lot with 5-year-old children in March." The boys started to wake up. Nathan rubbed his eyes and saw me. "Grandpa?" His little voice broke something in my chest. "Hey, buddy," I said, forcing a smile. "Why don't you and Oliver come with Grandpa to get some breakfast? Your dad and I need to talk." An hour later, the boys were eating pancakes in the airport, Tim Hortons, while Michael and I sat at a separate table. He looked thin, tired, defeated. "Tell me everything," I said. He took a shaky breath. "Jennifer left me 3 months ago. But it's not just that she left. She took everything, Dad. Everything. The house, the bank accounts, the business money, all of it." "What do you mean, all of it?" "The house was in both your names. She had me sign papers. Said it was for tax purposes, to put the house in her name only. I trusted her. I signed. Then one day I came home from work, and the locks were changed. There was a restraining order. Her lawyer claimed I was mentally unstable, dangerous. Said I'd been threatening her. That's insane. You've never been violent a day in your life." "I know. But she had evidence, Dad. Or at least, her lawyer said she did. Text messages I supposedly sent. Emails. Witnesses who claimed they'd seen me acting erratic. Her parents backed up every word. They painted this picture of me as this unstable, controlling husband, and the judge believed them." "What about the money? The $150,000 I invested in your startup?" Michael's face crumbled. "Gone. She was the one managing the business accounts. The day before she left, she transferred everything to an investment account belonging to her father. Claimed it was a legitimate business loan we'd discussed. I have no proof otherwise because she handled all the paperwork." "And the boys?" "Custody hearing was 2 weeks ago. I lost. I only get supervised visitation twice a week. The rest of the time, they're with her and her parents. The court said I needed to prove stable housing and employment first. But I can't get stable housing without money, and Jennifer made sure I have nothing. I've been working, but barely making enough for food in this parking spot. I shower at the gym. The boys think we're on an adventure." I felt rage building in my chest. Rage like I hadn't felt since my wife died. "Where are you supposed to have these supervised visits?" "Her parents' house, with her mother supervising. It's humiliating. They watch every interaction, write notes. I can't even hug my own sons without feeling like I'm being judged." "This ends now," I said. "Pack up your car. You and the boys are coming to stay at my hotel until we figure this out. Then we're going to fix this." "Dad, you don't understand. Her family has money. Her father, Douglas, is a real estate developer. They have lawyers. Good lawyers. I can't fight them. Maybe you can't, but we can." That night, after the boys were asleep in the hotel room, I sat at the desk and started making calls. First to my lawyer in Vancouver, Paul Chen, who I'd known for 30 years. Then to an old friend, Detective Sarah Morrison with Toronto Police, who owed me a favor from years back when I'd helped her son get into university. "Paul, I need you to recommend the best family lawyer in Ontario. Money is not an issue." "What's going on, James?" I told him everything. When I finished, there was a long pause. "This smells like fraud," Paul said. "The business account transfers, the forged documents, the coordinated testimony. If what Michael says is true, This isn't just a custody dispute. This is organized theft. You need someone who handles both family law and financial crimes. He gave me a name, Rebecca Hart, one of the top lawyers in Toronto, specializing in high-conflict custody cases with financial abuse components. Her retainer was expensive. I didn't care. The next morning, I met with Rebecca. She was in her 40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. "Tell me everything," she said. "And I mean everything. Don't leave out details you think are insignificant." I recounted Michael's story. She took notes, asked pointed questions, then leaned back in her chair. "Here's what we're dealing with," Rebecca said. "Your son's ex-wife and her family have executed what we call financial coercive control with parental alienation. They've systematically stripped him of resources, credibility, and access to his children. The text messages, the witnesses, the mental health accusations, this is a playbook. I've seen it before. Can we prove it? That depends. Do you have any documentation from the business? Bank statements? Emails? Anything? I have the wire transfer confirmations from when I invested the money. Emails from Michael about the business plan. But Jennifer handled most of the business accounts. That's a start. What about Michael's mental health? They're claiming he's unstable. Does he have any medical records proving otherwise? He was seeing a therapist last year. Not because he was unstable, but because work was stressful. He was trying to manage the pressure of the startup. Rebecca nodded. That's actually good. Therapy records showing he was proactively managing stress prove the opposite of their claims. We need those records. We also need to do a forensic accounting analysis of the business accounts. If money was transferred out improperly, we'll find it. And we need to depose the witnesses who claimed Michael was unstable. I guarantee their stories won't hold up under scrutiny. How long will this take? Months. Maybe longer. Family court moves slowly. But in the meantime, we can file an emergency motion to modify the custody arrangement. If we can show that the boys are in a stable environment with you and Michael, and that Jennifer obtained custody through fraudulent means, we might be able to get temporary joint custody while the case proceeds. Do it. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a man on a mission. I rented a 3-bedroom apartment in Mississauga, furnished it, enrolled Nathan and Oliver in a school nearby. Michael got a job with a tech company, a former colleague who believed in him. I made it my job to build the case. I drove to Michael's old workplace and talked to his colleagues. Every single one of them was shocked by the accusations. "Michael? Unstable? That's absurd," said Tom Rodriguez, his former business partner. He was the calmest person in the room during crises. Jennifer was the volatile one. I remember her screaming at him in the office once because he worked late. "Would you be willing to testify to that?" I asked. "Absolutely." I tracked down the therapist, Dr. Lisa Patel. She couldn't share Michael's records without his consent, but Michael signed the release immediately. When Dr. Patel provided her notes, they painted a clear picture of a man dealing with normal work stress, using healthy coping mechanisms, with zero signs of instability or aggression. Then I started digging into Jennifer's family. Her father, Douglas Whitmore, was a real estate developer in Oakville. On the surface, everything looked legitimate, but my detective friend Sarah did some checking. James, Douglas Whitmore, has been investigated twice by the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada, both times for suspicious large cash deposits. No charges, but red flags. And get this, 3 years ago, a business partner sued him for fraud. The case was settled out of court, sealed records. Can we use that? Depends on what your lawyer can dig up. But it establishes a pattern. Rebecca hired a forensic accountant, Martin Wu. It took him 3 weeks, but he traced every dollar of Michael's business accounts. What he found was damning. The $150,000 I'd invested had been transferred to an account belonging to Douglas Whitmore, labeled as a business loan. But there was no loan agreement, no terms, no repayment schedule, nothing in writing. Just a transfer, made the day before Jennifer filed for the restraining order. More transfers followed. Over 14 months, Jennifer had systematically moved money from the business account to personal accounts, then to her father's accounts. Small amounts at first, 500 here, 1,000 there, then larger sums. By the end, she'd transferred nearly $280,000. "This isn't a marital dispute," Martin said, showing me his report. "This is embezzlement. She was draining the business while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. And her father was complicit. Can Michael get the money back? If we can prove fraud, yes. But it'll require criminal charges, not just civil court. This is beyond family law. Rebecca filed motions. First, an emergency motion to modify custody, presenting evidence that Michael now had stable housing and employment, and that the boys had been living with him and me for a month, thriving in school, seeing their pediatrician regularly. She presented Dr. Patel's records, demolishing the mental instability claims. She presented testimony from Michael's colleagues, proving Jennifer's accusations were false. Jennifer's lawyer, a slick guy named Trevor Harding, fought back hard. He claimed Michael was only stable now because I was bankrolling everything, that it wasn't sustainable, that the boys needed their mother. But Rebecca was relentless. She deposed Jennifer's witnesses. One by one, their stories fell apart. Jennifer's friend Melissa, who claimed she'd seen Michael act erratically at a party. Under oath, she admitted she'd only heard about it from Jennifer, hadn't actually witnessed anything. Jennifer's neighbor, who claimed Michael had shouted threats, admitted he'd never actually heard the words, just saw Michael looking angry through a window. The supervised visits became our strongest evidence. I attended several with Michael. Jennifer's mother, Patricia Whitmore, sat in the corner with a notebook, writing constantly. But what she didn't know was that Michael had started recording the audio of every visit on his phone, legally, since it was in a shared space with consent posted on the wall. What the recordings showed was damning. The boys were happy, well-adjusted, excited to see their father. They called him Dad unprompted, hugged him, told him about school. There was zero fear, zero hesitation. They were normal kids with their normal father. But Patricia's notes? They painted a completely different picture. Father appeared agitated. Children seemed withdrawn. Father's tone was aggressive. All lies, all documented lies, contradicted by the audio recordings. Rebecca submitted the recordings to the court with a motion to end supervised visitation, arguing that the supervision was being weaponized to create false evidence. Then came the forensic accounting report. Martin had traced every fraudulent transfer. Rebecca didn't just submit it to family court. She submitted it to the Police Fraud Division and to the Canada Revenue Agency. Douglas Whitmore was now under investigation for tax evasion and fraud. Jennifer was facing potential criminal charges for embezzlement. The custody hearing was scheduled for July, 6 months after I'd found my son in that parking lot. The courtroom was tense. Jennifer sat with her parents and her lawyer, looking confident. Michael sat with me and Rebecca, looking nervous but determined. The judge was Justice Margaret Holloway, a woman in her 60s with a reputation for being thorough and fair. Rebecca presented our case methodically, the forensic accounting, the false accusations, the contradictory witness testimony, the audio recordings proving the supervised visits were manipulated, Dr. Patel's records, Michael's stable employment and housing. Trevor Harding tried to discredit everything. He argued that Michael's stability was only because of my financial support, which wasn't sustainable. He argued that the boys needed their mother, that they'd been thriving in Jennifer's care. Then Rebecca called Jennifer to the stand. Mrs. Reeves, you testified that you transferred funds from the business account to your father's account as a business loan. Is that correct? Yes. Where's the loan agreement? It was a verbal agreement. A verbal agreement for $150,000? Yes. My father was helping us during a difficult time. Why was it difficult? According to bank records, the business was profitable. Revenue was strong. Jennifer hesitated. Michael was spending recklessly. On what? I don't know. He handled expenses. Rebecca pulled out bank statements. These records show that Michael's personal spending was consistent and modest. Rent, groceries, utilities, transportation. Meanwhile, your personal credit card statements show charges at high-end restaurants, boutiques, spa services, totaling over $30,000 in 6 months. Would you call that reckless spending? I deserve to enjoy the success of the business. Was it your business, or was it a joint venture with your husband funded by his father's investment? It was joint. Then why did you transfer the funds without his knowledge or consent? He knew. Rebecca pulled out phone records. Your phone records show no calls or texts to Michael on the day of the transfer. No discussion. The transfer happened at 9 a.m. Michael was at a client meeting across town. How did he know? Jennifer's face flushed. I don't remember the exact details. Convenient. Let's talk about the mental health accusations. You claimed Michael sent threatening text messages. Where are these messages? I deleted them. I was afraid. You were afraid, so you deleted the evidence? But you kept screenshots to show your lawyer? Yes. The screenshots you provided have been analyzed by a digital forensics expert. They show signs of manipulation. Timestamps don't align with phone records. Message threads are incomplete. In fact, the metadata shows these images were created on a computer, not captured from a phone. Would you like to explain that? Trevor Harding objected. The judge overruled. Jennifer stammered. I don't know. Maybe my phone was acting up, or maybe these messages were fabricated. The courtroom was silent. Rebecca continued. You also claimed Michael was mentally unstable, yet Dr. Lisa Patel's records, which we've submitted, show no signs of instability. In fact, they show a man proactively managing normal work stress. Were you aware of these records when you made your accusations? No. Did you ever encourage Michael to see a therapist? No. So you claim he was unstable, but you never encouraged him to get help. And when he did get help on his own, you used it against him? Jennifer didn't answer. Rebecca turned to the judge. Your Honor, what we have here is a deliberate, coordinated effort to destroy a father's relationship with his children while stealing his financial resources. The evidence is overwhelming. Fraudulent financial transfers, fabricated text messages, false accusations, manipulated supervised visit reports. Jennifer Whitmore and her family have weaponized the family court system for financial gain. Trevor Harding stood. Your Honor, my client made mistakes, but her primary concern has always been the welfare of her children. Rebecca shot back. If her primary concern was the children, why did she allow them to believe their father abandoned them? Why did she restrict his contact? Why did she create an environment where those boys thought their dad didn't want them? The audio recordings show children who love their father, who are happy to see him. That's not the behavior of children who've been protected from an unstable parent. That's the behavior of children who've been lied to. Justice Holloway looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Whitmore, I've reviewed all the evidence. The forensic accounting, the digital analysis, the witness testimony, the audio recordings. I find it deeply troubling that you've made serious accusations against your ex-husband without credible evidence. I find it even more troubling that funds were transferred out of a jointly owned business without proper documentation or consent. She turned to Michael. Mr. Reeves, I've also reviewed Dr. Patel's records and your current living situation. You have stable employment, stable housing, and your sons are clearly thriving in your care. I see no evidence of the instability claimed by your ex-wife. She picked up her gavel. I'm ordering an immediate modification of custody. Joint legal custody will be shared equally between both parents. Physical custody will be split 50-50, with both parents having equal parenting time. Supervised visitation is terminated. Mr. Reeves will have unsupervised access to his children, effective immediately. Jennifer gasped. Her mother stood up. Your Honor, this is outrageous. Sit down, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm not finished. I'm also ordering that Jennifer Whitmore repay the sum of $280,000 to Michael Reeves, representing funds improperly transferred from the business account. If repayment is not made within 90 days, I will authorize seizure of assets. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the Crown Attorney's Office for potential criminal prosecution. This court does not take kindly to fraud. She struck the gavel. We're adjourned. Michael's knees buckled. I caught him. He was crying. Not sad tears. Relief tears. Outside the courtroom, Nathan and Oliver ran to him. They'd been in a waiting room with a social worker. Michael dropped to his knees and hugged them both, holding them like he'd never let go. Daddy, are we going home? Nathan asked. Yeah, buddy, we're going home. 3 months later, Jennifer's father, Douglas, was charged with fraud and tax evasion. Jennifer herself faced charges of embezzlement. Her lawyer negotiated a plea deal where she'd repay the money and avoid jail time in exchange for a guilty plea on lesser charges. The money came back. Most of it, anyway. Legal fees had eaten a chunk, but Michael had enough to restart. He launched a new business, this time with ironclad contracts and a lawyer reviewing everything. Nathan and Oliver split time between both parents, but Michael had them more often than not. Jennifer had visibly checked out, more interested in salvaging her own life than being a mother. I stayed in Toronto, rented a condo near Michael's place. I see my grandsons 3 times a week. We go to the park. I help with homework. I'm teaching them to play chess. One evening, about a year after that day in the parking lot, Michael and I were sitting on my balcony while the boys played inside. He looked at me. "I never thanked you properly," he said. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. If you hadn't shown up that day, if you hadn't helped me fight, I'd still be living in my car. Or worse, I'd have lost my boys forever. You're my son. That's what fathers do." He was quiet for a moment. I thought I'd lost everything. My wife, my home, my business, my kids. I thought I was the problem. That maybe I really was unstable, and everyone else could see it except me. You were never the problem. They wanted you to think that. That's how abusers work. They make you doubt yourself. I know that now. But for months, I believed it. The court believed it. Everyone believed it except you. I know my son. I've known you since the day you were born. I know who you are, and you're not what they tried to make you out to be. He nodded. We sat in silence, watching the sun set over Toronto. "Dad?" he said after a while. "Yeah? Thank you." I reached over and squeezed his shoulder. "You'd have done the same for your boys." He smiled. "I would, because I learned it from you." Inside, Nathan called out, "Grandpa, come play Jenga with us." I stood up. "Duty calls." Michael laughed. "Go. I'll order pizza." I walked inside to where my grandsons were building a precarious tower of wooden blocks. Oliver looked up at me and grinned. "Grandpa, don't let it fall." I sat down carefully. "I won't, buddy. I won't let anything fall." And I meant it, not just the tower, not just this moment. I meant all of it, this family, these boys, my son. I'd protect them, no matter what, because that's what family does. We don't let each other fall.